Welcome to Specific 11. In a previous video, made an awesome homemade zipline that my family just absolutely loves. The only downside is that we had to use a ladder to get to it every single time. So in this video, I made a simple tree platform that makes it so much easier to get to the zipline. Also, this platform could double as a simple tree house or just a platform around your tree if you need something simple. So, let's get started. I first drew a basic sketch of the design on my computer, knowing full well that the design would have to be a little bit flexible because the ground and tree were not straight and level. Almost all of the wood used in this build was salvaged from an old playground I found at a local church. And since it was already grayed, the coloring would match well to the forest layout. To begin this build, I wanted the frame to have some extra support at the tree side, so I grabbed a level and balanced it on a nail at the front. I then used a short 2x4 section that I attached with a single nail on each side, making sure to keep them as even as possible. I then checked the levelness of each and added a couple screws for support. To compensate for the unevenness of the ground, I decided to use 2 concrete deck blocks which would hold the main vertical supports. For each of these blocks, the ground has to be leveled off, which can be done easily with a square shovel. It is best to then check the evenness with a good level. You can see here the difference a couple feet can make in this area. Next up was building a frame. So I grabbed my son to give me a helping hand with balancing the vertical 4x4 while I added some 2x8s on the sides. These boards were leveled as well, and I added several screws at each end. After the second side was completed, my son held both of the vertical pieces in place while I attached them together with 2 1x6 boards for strength and support. I next started cutting and attaching the flooring. This was pretty straightforward until I reached the last board and realized that this setup could use some extra support, especially if I will have some heavy adults on this zipline. So I wedged in an additional 2x4 that reached from side to side and screwed it in place. I then added a second board that stretched from front to back. Now for the last floorboard, I had to rip it down about an inch on my table saw for it to fit. And then I secured it in place with some screws. I then added a single screw through each of the floorboards to the center support. Now to keep the kids from falling off the sides of the platform, I cut down some additional 2x6s and added a matching pair to each side. For the steps, I just cut down some 2x4s to the width of the vertical beams and added a couple screws in each side. And after a quick test, my dog gave it 2 paws up. Now due to the unevenness of the ground, the vertical beams looked very unlevel. So I started with my circular saw, but I did not feel very comfortable with some of the cutting paths. So I then finished the cuts with my pull saw. Now my son wanted to try it out, and he gave it a few hard jumps, and it didn't move at all. Next up, zipline time. Now if you enjoyed this project, make sure you click the like button, tell us what you think about in the comments. I also have some other projects to go along with our backyard upgrades, so make sure you check those out.